Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. My name is Ashutosh Garg, and today I am delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional actor from Australia, Saroni Roy. Saroni, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for having me. It's certainly a privilege, an honor to be on your show.
Saroni is an Australian actor, keynote speaker, creative consultant, and a PR and media consultant. She won the Miss India-Australia Goodwill Ambassador title. She's the creator and producer of Ahimsa Peace Symposium, a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. She's the face of several international brands, and she's the founder of the Saroni Roy Foundation, which is the banner you see just behind her now. So, Saroni, let me start by asking you, how do you handle so many different roles and all of them very high profile?
I would say extreme level of determination, organizational skills, and time management skills. I mean, I value time the most, Ashutosh, because it's an irreversible resource, as we all know, but then we don't quite understand the statement, I would say. And maybe because, I'm a cancer survivor and I have this urgency that I have to do everything today. What if tomorrow never comes and I'm not able to do what I'm doing today? So I want to finish and accomplish everything. And also because, it's like I've been through extreme trauma, abuse, assault, humiliation, and all of that. But this has acted like a driving force and motivation to accomplish, that motivation stems from there. And also in terms of the organizational skills and the time management skills, I would say it's more like, I would say, for an example, I would say starting from my hair appointments to waxing, facial, medical appointments, tests, scans, housekeeping, everything is booked in advance for me for almost the whole year. And I cook the meals and box them for the whole week. So I basically try to automate every process and all the chores as much as possible so that I have more time. I can utilize these 24 hours that I have to myself to the full potential.
Incredible. You must be a very, very premier client of all these calendar apps because you're booked up for a whole year. Incredible. Well done.
Yeah.
So, Saroni, let's talk a little bit about your winning the India-Australia Goodwill Ambassador title. What role do you play to support bilateral trade relations between India and Australia? And over the last few years, the two countries have become very close. So I'd love to get your perspective.
So I was a part of the beauty pageant, which is Miss India-Australia beauty pageant that happens every year in Sydney. So and I participated in this pageant only because a friend of mine just forced me into it. And I never thought of acting or modeling or any of it. I've never planned my life as such. So I just got into the pageant, and I was going through a very low phase at that time in terms of my health issues, and the pain management and everything was really at a very dire strait. And but then I won the title of Miss India-Australia Goodwill Ambassador for, it is a title given to a person, a candidate, a contestant who is not just beautiful, but is also has done a lot of community work. So community work comes natural to me, I would say. It's like in my DNA. It's like business as usual for me. It's like a way of life for me. Since I was a kid, I went to missionary school, and my mother, my dad, everyone is very, very much into philanthropy and charity and sort of giving and making a difference in other people's life, even if it means to sacrifice their own, needs and, comforts to that level. So I had basically done a lot of community work, even though I was new to this country. When I landed here, I just started doing initiatives, participating in initiatives, rallies, be it animal rights, be it, for the environment, be it doing food donation drives, like for example, during the bushfires, I did a donation drive just with my own team there. And the proceeds actually went to a food pantry here, a community food pantry, which sort of is committed to giving out groceries and food, affordable food to refugees and asylum seekers and everyone vulnerable and less privileged in Australia. So, and we were able to provide food and groceries to 100,000 people.
Wow.
With that donation drive. And we were able to rescue 100 tons of food from going to the landfill. So those would be some examples of, initiatives based on sustainability and social justice, and also diversity for that matter. And so, yeah, I've been working on these, and I feel when it comes to a more peaceful society or creating a more inclusive society, these would be the three pillars to attain that, or taking those baby steps towards that. And so, yeah, I had a fat folder which I could submit at the pageant, and the judges were very wowed by the amount of work that I had done in only a couple of years in Sydney, in Australia. And they were very much aligned to India-Australia shared values. And I always try to sort of focus on soft power as an artist, I would say. So tapping into the creative economy, collaboration in film, media, fashion, art, peace initiatives between India and Australia. So there's a lot that the two countries can learn from each other, collaborate and flourish, I feel, because the friendship is so strong. Correct. It only needs be, just go with the flow and keep working on it. And to tell you something that, in terms of stats, like Australia's Indian diaspora numbers approximately is around like about 700,000.
Wow.
And India is expected to outnumber Chinese-born Australians over the next decade. So I'm just tapping into this rich resource that we have. Absolutely. I would say.
And in a country, I didn't realize the numbers are so large, because in a country which has a population, I think, of 27 or 28 million, to have almost 3.5% as people of Indian origin is huge.
And it's increasing, and the whole collaboration is just increasing.
Incredible. So I do have questions about you on your foundation, but before I come to the foundation, where we'll talk about diversity, sustainability, and social justice that you just referred to, I'd love to talk to you about your avatar as an actor and a keynote speaker. So let's start with asking you, Saroni, about some of your memorable roles in movies or web series.
So I'm very new to the industry, I would say. Like before cancer, in my first life, I call it my first life, and this is my second life, I call it that way. So in my first life, I was a journalist and a PR professional, and I got into the film industry, the film school and everything only very recently, in a couple of years ago. And just like that, I got into it. Heal myself, not to become an actor or do anything of that sort. And somehow gigs started coming in, and I just fell in love with the profession. So a few roles that I would say which have been very memorable or very close to me, I think all of them are, because it's such a learning process, each experience, each role, whether it's an extra role or a featured extra or like a big, small, whatever, it's just amazing to be surrounded by such amazing creatives and learn so much from them. So I would say Veronica, which is which I played in a short film called Faceless, because of the significant message the film had, and it was nominated in one of the film festivals here. And it had it's a short film, and it had a very strong message about men's mental health awareness.
Wow.
So and playing a role in that was something that I feel was very significant. And then I enjoyed playing role called Tina in A Troubled Town, which is a series on Amazon Prime. And yeah, I'm just playing Detective Jordan's best friend, and it's a very emotional kind of a scene, very underplayed, very understated.
So, and what was the name of the serial again? Tina.
Yeah, so the character's name is Tina.
Okay.
And series is A Troubled Town.
A Troubled Town.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. And so these, so I think my series that, it was shot just before COVID and was supposed to be released by now, but then because of pandemic, we can't shoot. So I think they're going to finish the season shoot and then they're going to release it.
Okay, I'll watch out for that, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners would love to see a web series that you're part of, because they'll be listening to you. But my next question, Saroni, is, and I've often wondered about this, what goes into delivering a really memorable performance in front of the camera?
There's a lot. Okay, so I would say a few things that I could name would be authenticity, technique, and preparation from my end as an actor.
Sure.
But the rest is, of course, the director, and then direction, then the editing, what happens in post-production, which is beyond the actor's control or power, but from my end, the prep that goes into it is what is important, in the sense that, even if it's a 5-minute scene, or the prep will be equally intense, because there's a lot at stake. Acting is much more. To be a working actor and to be hired for a job, there's a lot at stake. There are hours, there are millions of dollars, there's crew, cast, your reputation, reliability, credibility, and much more is at stake. So it's not just, you're not hired just because you're a great actor, but also because you're a reliable actor. Because the costs go up if the actor is not prepared and keeps forgetting the lines, or doesn't know what to do on set, and doesn't know how to take directions well. So you'll have to be prepared to, first and foremost, the technique of even memorizing the lines so well that it feels that you're speaking your mind and not that it was scripted.
So did you take any lessons when you started, or it was natural?
No, of course. I mean, the thing is about here in the industry, I'm not, I mean, I have an idea how things work in India, but here, if you're not from a film school, you cannot be hired.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You will never be hired. So a lot of times I feel that people think that acting comes naturally to you. You're a naturally born actor, you're an artist. Yes, to an extent. But acting, what works here is very different from what we understand in India, I would say. Here it is totally about knowing the technique, authenticity, and not very understated, very natural, and it's more like, if you're not from a film school, if you're not trained, like we keep training, even like today, Leonardo DiCaprio, to Kate Winslet, to Margot Robbie, to all of them, they still go for acting coaching.
Correct.
They still are getting trained, So it is all about training here.
Amazing. Amazing.
So the screen performances, what I have learned, a few techniques would be, there is very little movement. You only see waist up most of the time. It's probably close-ups and sort of waist up, and the focus is the eyes of the actor. So and you're doing so little, because on screen, as opposed to theater, on screen everything is magnified. The slightest of frown, the slightest of smile, it looks too big on screen. too loud on screen. So even if it's a drama scene, and so you're not blinking much, you're not frowning much, you're very, very plain, you're very still. The stillness and the calmness sort of intensifies your, the emotion in your eyes. So whatever you're doing, it's your eyes which are doing the work. That's what screen performance is about.
Amazing. Thank you for such a lucid explanation. I had never heard this before. So, Saroni, I've got one more question for you about acting and the work you do in that sector before I move to your foundation. You have created and produced Ahinsa Peace Symposium, which is a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. Tell me a little bit about this.
Sure. It's again an initiative that my foundation and SRF creators, it was my inaugural project or initiative. So I've been working with, for world peace initiatives and multicultural initiatives for a while now, and also specifically towards Mahatma Gandhi's birth anniversary and perpetuating his values. So this time I obviously created my organizations only in 2020, and with the onset of the pandemic. So I've been thinking of doing a launch event or an initiative which perpetuates Mahatma Gandhi's values and initiatives in a way that it does augment the India-Australia bilateral relations, but it also is the fact that Mahatma Gandhi in Australia is not yet the global peace hero that he is in other countries. So a lot of times what happens is that people probably, or especially the youth, kind of thinks that, yes, Mahatma Gandhi is a great peace hero of history. And yes, the Gandhian values of Ahimsa and, Satyagraha and all of that, maybe they study in some of the students in their colleges and stuff, but then they don't know how to apply it. They don't know how relevant it is to every country or globally or to each of us in everyday life. So my idea behind Ahimsa Peace Symposium, initially I had conceptualized it as a face-to-face in-person event, but then because of COVID, I kind of made it a virtual event. And what happened with that was that, I could actually bring speakers from India on the panel, and and Australia, and from the politicians to academia to Rotary. I collaborated with Rotary, which is one of the global peace organizations. So I collaborated with them, and what I did was I was focusing this time only on the vision of Ahimsa, which is non-violence, with going on around us in Afghanistan to other countries. Even the whole thing of I felt that nonviolence was something to kind of learn in this environment. It would be a good thing, and to also see how Mahatma Gandhi's vision of Ahimsa, peace and cohesion, social cohesion, was kind of so aligned with the UN SDGs, Sustainable Goals. So many years ago, he said things which we are now seeing as the UN SDGs.
Well said. Agree with you.
So, and then I thought that, okay, so to bring that relevance, to bring that articulation of Ahimsa with the UN SDGs, that was one of the aims. And the other aim was to narrow it down. Okay, so now I know what Mahatma Gandhi's vision of Ahimsa was, and its alignment with the UN SDGs. But then how is it so relevant now in this situation or whatever? So I said that, with the pandemic, what we saw was arising, was like a shadow pandemic, like violence and crime against women rose at an alarming rate globally. From period poverty to domestic violence to everything globally. So the agenda this year was the focus on Ahimsa, but the subplot or the main focus was global women, peace and security agenda. So, yeah, I think, and globally, everyone sort of came together and sort of did their presentations and talks with that, and people learned so much from it. I think from people from Sri Lanka, Colombia, all countries joined, US, UK, everywhere, India, everywhere joined us virtually. It was a free event and we had lots of attendees. And I also wanted to bring the India-Australia collaboration in terms of artists. So SRF Creatists is where, that's where SRF Creators also comes into the picture, where I worked with, initially I thought that I will do a virtual live virtual concert. I sing pretty okay. So I wanted to sing Gandhi's favorite songs, but then I said that now that it's virtual, let me just collaborate with CALD artists, which is culturally and linguistically diverse artists from India and Australia. So I worked with these artists in Kolkata and curated this authentic and exquisite piece of art and constant Gandhian values of Ahimsa, courage, determination, solidarity, harmony, and peace. And as an actor and artist, I feel art is this platform which sort of showcases and also weaves together diverse cultures. And it transcends all barriers and doesn't conform to any limitations of language, faith, geography, race, or nationality.
Absolutely.
So, in spite of the fact that, I sang in Gujarati, Hindi, and Bengali, which maybe the attendees, a lot of them don't understand, most of them don't understand. I kept translating and sort of doing a recital along, but everyone enjoyed it and got the essence of it. So, yeah, I think
that's such an amazing kind of an effort that you are making towards global peace, and you're really taking the thoughts of Mahatma Gandhi, juxtaposing them with the SDGs, and I think this would be something really amazing. So Saroni, I really have time left for one more question, and we've spoken about sustainability, we've spoken about social justice, about your foundation. I'd love to get your perspective on diversity. Everybody in the world is talking on diversity. I want to understand from you, is enough being done? And if not, what can be done to make just significantly accelerate the whole process?
So I think Australia is doing fantastic work in diversity, because I think around the globe, outside of Australia, maybe other countries as well, I'm not sure. But what I hear in diversity is at the most gender diversity, and diversity as people of color.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what we understand with diversity. But it is much more than that. I would say diversity would be body diversity. To see body diversity on the ramp. Diversity would be to include disabled people. What are we doing for disabled artists? What are we doing for disabled models? Are we giving them that platform? Especially abled children or especially abled people, what platform are we giving them? So body diversity, the size issue, that one. So the pride community, the LGBTQIA plus community, that is diversity. And also I feel that when we say diversity, we are doing a lot in diversity, but what are we doing in terms of inclusivity? So diversity is to be invited to a party, yeah. But inclusivity would be to be invited to the party and be able to dance in that party.
Wow, well said.
Right. So, but then is that happening? No, as far as I can tell or I can see, yes, there's a lot of diversity happening. Check boxes are being ticked. That, oh, we have, we have seen so many auditions, 300 auditions for this role. We saw all ethnicities, but finally, who gets hired for the main role?
Correct.
Is it a white actor? Or, okay, so there were so many ethnicities, multicultural, diverse actors who were nominated for that award. But who actually took those awards, won those awards? Were they the diverse background actors who won the awards? No, probably not.
Wow.
So that's what I feel that, yes, we are doing a lot in terms of diversity, a lot more than what we were doing before. But in terms of inclusivity, I don't think so.
A lot more needs to be done. Wonderful. Yes. Saroni, on that note, I really want to thank you, for this incredible conversation. Thank you for talking to me about your amazing life so far. And I know it's going to be absolutely incredible looking ahead, going forward. Thank you for talking to me about acting, about speaking, about your foundation. And thank you for all your amazing thoughts on diversity and inclusivity. Thank you again and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh, for having me. I'm truly, truly enjoyed this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.